Well, welcome back to our next luncheon conversation about empowering students. We're excited to be here. I'm Beth Swans from the Digital Learning Team.
And I am Amber Bridge, also from the Digital Learning Team.
And Mindy Kearney, also from the Digital Learning Team.
So when we met last week, we talked a bit about self-assessment and about why we believe that self-assessment is such an important piece of the learning process. Today, we want to take that conversation and kind of apply some tool, the how. It's not just about the theory of self-assessment. We want to talk about why and how you make this work. So one of the things that I feel like I've been in education for a really long time. And one of the things that I feel like comes up often when we talk about self-assessment with students is by the time, especially they're in middle school and high school, they believe that the teacher has the correct answer. And the only way they know if something is right or wrong is if the teacher tells them, this is right, this is wrong. And that really goes against self-assessment, because self-assessment is all about figuring out for yourself where you are in this process. It's not a right or a wrong. It is, where are you moving toward the learning target and toward the end point for a standard? So it's really, that's a big lift to make that kind of a shift. So we're going to look today about a tool that we think is pretty amazing, that kind of gets that going.
Right. So today we're going to share our trusty Google Slides, which we absolutely love in all aspects of everything. And I guess one of the reasons that we chose Google Slides is because it has the ability to allow students to be creative and kind of collect evidence in one spot. It also has all of those great abilities to allow teachers to comment, to be collaborative, to share to a wider audience. It's got a lot of great properties to it that we really enjoy. So one of the things that we did, I'm going to share my screen here. Give me 1 second. Is created a student portfolio template for people to use. And so I'm going to click on actually the first one here. I'm going to give just a very quick introduction and kind of tour of this portfolio so that you kind of get the gist of it. But on this first page, I think Beth is going to share the template link with you within the Facebook comments. But so in your copy of this, there is a little introduction video that I created just here on this first slide. So if you need to go back and revisit it, it's here for you. So within this portfolio, there are lots of different slides. There is a table of contents here, and each one of these links actually takes you to a specific slide within the template. And I really think this is fantastic for teachers, because if you are trying to navigate through lots of different portfolios, having a built-in table of contents allows you to kind of be in and quick, and then on to maybe that next student portfolio, as well as really creates a nice workflow for your students as well, so that they don't have to thumb through all of the slides looking for their spot. So there are lots of different templates within here, different colors, things like that. And then way back at the bottom of this, we're going to talk about the single point rubric kind of at the end, but there are additional slides here that have special paper. So if you'd like to make a copy, or if students would like to use specific kinds of paper, they can make their own copy and add it in where they would like to. But most importantly, let's talk a little bit about how students might add evidence of their own. So on this second page, there's kind of a little tutorial and a couple of different links that you could share with your students. So you could keep this slide in here so that students can go and see how they might add their evidence. And what we would say is that you can use a camera directly inside Google Slides. It has a webcam that's built directly into it. However, video and audio are not native to Google Slides, and you will need to use a third-party tool of some sort to add those to Google Slides. But fear not, we're going to show you how to do that too. So I'm going to actually go here to my slide number 4, and I'm going to go up here into Insert, and then Insert image. And then way down here at the bottom is the camera. So once I have that, I have the webcam of me. And then I just go ahead and click insert, and there's my picture. So imagine that students have a piece of evidence that they'd like to take a picture of. They can move their Chromebook and put it right over top of a picture that they've created or a diagram that they've created. So that's one great way, real slick, to be able to use Google Slides and put something right in there as a body of evidence. But like we mentioned, you might want to also add audio or video too. And those are things that we have to go outside of Google Slides for. So Amber is going to talk to us a little bit about these, the 1, 2, 3 apps. And right here on slide number 2, clicking on, maybe I am. Oh, it says it's creating images. I'm running a little slow here. There we go. Amber's going to talk us through a little bit about these free web apps.
1, 2, 3 apps is, I think, one of my favorite. I think even you guys shared it out in the podcast one time, and that's kind of like where we all got hooked onto it. But it's this great nugget of a place to go on the web that doesn't require you to log in, to be able to create and edit things, which there are different software that charges a lot of money in order to be able to use and do similar things that 1, 2, 3 apps allows you to do. And so let's first look at the voice recorder. And so if we want to add in audio to Google Slide, which is something that is that we're going to show you here next, all you do, very easy, click on the red button. And once you click on the red button, it's going to start recording all of the audio that you are saying. And you can click the pause button to pause it, and you can restart it. But it's just a real simple voice recorder. And with that, you could even, if you had a little oops at the beginning or the end, you can do a scooch there with either of those to kind of shorten up your audio track. But all you have to do is click on the save button. And once you do that, it will show kind of down there in your downloads bar that it is going right to your, wherever your downloads may live. I know people get those to go in lots of different places. And so once it's there, and this is the only trick to using Google Slides and using these third-party things, is you have to get that into your Google Drive to get it there. So if you open up your Google Drive, and then either just dragging that file up there or going to new file upload, you can add in that audio file that you just created.
Oh, and here is the real trick. I believe it was called record. Ooh, let's try this. Fingers crossed. Who knows what that could be? I think that was the right thing.
So as soon as that gets uploaded to your Google Drive, you'll get the opportunity to be able to search for it in within your slides to be able to pull that in. So you just go again to that insert area, and then the audio one is the third choice down. And then it will pull up all of the things that are in your drive that are audio files. And you just need to figure out what the name of that magic audio file is. So once you add in an audio file, what you actually get is you get this little play button, and the play button will show up, and you can kind of move that around on your screen. And then you can simply click and play the audio file that's attached to it. It's real fast.
Yeah, it's over here on my right. It's very small, but right here, do you see it?
It's real small.
It is real small.
You can drag it and make it bigger.
Make it a little bit bigger. Sorry, there we go.
So why would you want to add in audio? Well, it always gives a little bit more weight to it when you can hear the students thinking behind it. And there are definitely going to be some students that are not necessarily going to want maybe a video of themselves on there, but just being able to add in their audio alone can give their perspective, their opportunity to elaborate on why it is that they chose that specific piece of evidence to show their learning. Now, with that, there are going to be some students that would want to make a video. And so 1, 2, 3 Apps also has a video recorder. And just as easy as it was with the audio, now, we just click on it. And we are tapped right in to the webcam of that. Click on the red button to start recording. You can see it has a, like, I think it says 45 minutes, right?
Yes.
5-minute limit. But please don't ever let any student make a 45-minute video, ever.
No, don't do that.
You just simply click stop. And then when you're done, you get that save button. And it goes to your downloads again, and then again, just get it back into your drive, and then you can add it into your Google Slide deck. You know, that video piece could also tie in with screencasting. If your students have access to a free program called Screencastify, they can make up to 5-minute videos and be able to kind of annotate and mark up their work to really show, again, what is it that they were able to do. And all of that lives under the simple magic of that insert button. You just go insert video, and it embeds right in onto the slide deck.
So I will tell you that with insert video, there are 3 different tabs here. So you can insert video in a couple different ways. You can do a YouTube video if students have used something else, but I'm just going to go right here to my Google Drive too. It's going to take a minute for it to find all of those videos, which I also think is really nice that it finds your most recents usually and kind of puts those to the top. Reminds you to make sure it's shareable, which is nice. Of course, this is not the video that we added because that one is still loading in, but just like that, I've got a video that I can add as well. Easy peasy.
Absolutely. So now, real quickly, we added a photo, audio, and video to a slide deck. And just getting kids used to that process really starts to hand over that ownership to them and allowing them, as Beth said, to start to make those decisions and to start to own what it is that they really learned.
Right.
You know, sometimes when you read about student portfolios, it talks about giving students any option for sharing in a portfolio. I mean, any option as a platform to share. I think that there's some real strength in saying, this is the template we're going to use, but inside this template, go crazy. Make it your own with the color, with the design, with whatever, but we're all using this specific beginning point because I think that really it takes that one more variable out of the equation as you're trying to break down that barrier.
Right. And I think that's what another point to kind of piggyback off of that, Beth, is within here in this kind of template that we've started with, there is the ability around each one of these slides, what I always call the gray space. I don't know. Is that what you guys call it? Do you call it the gray space? Within that gray space is also a work area. So you can see over here on the left-hand side, I've given very specific instructions for my students to follow. And these are all editable by you if you're using the template. So you can decide what your instructions are going to be. And then I would just copy that note and plop it into each slide as you go. But also on top of letting kids just kind of loose with a portfolio can be very overwhelming for students. And I think that's where the single point rubric comes in that we discussed a lot last week, because a single point rubric is very specific about a certain aspect of the learning. So if students know what that specific aspect of the learning that they need to provide evidence for, helps them really narrow in and focus on what that evidence will also look like. And so one of the things that we've done is add just a little part of the single point rubric on each one of these slides so that students can use that as a guide to help them decide what goes where. So over here on the right-hand side, one of the things that I've done, and I'm going to show you how to do this in just a second, is just take a screenshot of the single point rubric, and right here, I would put what the criteria is, or have students type that in, depending on what's age appropriate for your kids. It also might be right up here in your success criteria. So as a teacher, if I want to be very specific about what evidence goes where, before I shared this template with the students, I'd probably type in what that success criteria is going to look like. And then it would also go over here in this single point rubric. And I type that right in for them or have them copy and paste it in. Then there's text boxes here for them to really reflect and think about, well, what part of the learning do I still need to improve on? Where am I at? Where do I need to go to next? And then what does it, do I have evidence that kind of exceeds this criteria, and adding that into? And then even if you wanted to do some sort of rating as far as, what was my effort on this, or how well did this work for me? That rating could be anything that works for you and is a feedback tool of some sort for you too as a teacher. And the nice thing about that is I can just have that circle there for my students even, and they can move it on. So once I have this kind of figured out, once I select all of these, they once again can just be pasted into each single page. So it's all ready for my students, and all of the requirements are there for them to be independent. And it really provides, I think, a great communication tool between the student and myself. If we're asynchronous and we're not seeing each other all of the time, it's really hard to know where students are, and that's okay. But then they need to have a responsibility to kind of share that with us. So to go way back to way back, page or slide 17 is actually where this rubric kind of started. So there is 4 different sections for this rubric here. What I did was just took a screenshot of this first little section here, but you might want to use this whole rubric depending on, how much you've worked on your with your students and modeled this for them. They might be ready to take on 4 different aspects for this single point rubric. But this is where you'd want to go and alter it and fix it, and then make it your own, and then take your screenshot from here, and then make sure that maybe you take that page out, that slide out for your students when you share this template with them. So it is kind of a spot for you to work on or work from. And the other thing about these little notes here is some of these notes are for you. So feel free to delete them out, because it's just to kind of help you know why that slide is there and how to use it. Does that make sense, guys?
I would say within this amazing template, use all of the gray space, add more things, delete, but take it and make it your own. We're trying to give you a platform and an opportunity to get started with student portfolios in a way that, as Beth said wonderfully, kind of gives everyone the same starting page with it, and then students can customize it how they want and really try to select work that they feel that represents what they really understand about the content.
The only thing I would add is, as Mindy said, I think it's really important to ask them to rate and reflect on their process, not only the product, because some of our engagement issues are because they're just checked out. And I think it's important for students to realize that as well. If we're in this whole journey of having them take on more of the learning, that's a piece of this process.